Hey there, thank you for making OB1 a part of your weekend. Man, we're so glad that you're with us. My name is Chris, and I'm one of the pastors, and it's my privilege to share with you today. I want to ask a question up front. How many of you remember what it was like the first time you got on a roller coaster? Were you really excited to get on? Were you a little afraid to get on? Were you a lot afraid to get on? Or maybe you've never been on a roller coaster before because you were afraid. How did you feel after? Was it everything that you thought it would be? Man, if I'm being transparent with you, I used to love roller coasters, used to love them. But there was also, it was exciting to me, it was adventurous, but there was also those times where I was fearful, where I was afraid, whether it was a bigger roller coaster, or it went up higher, or there was more twists and turns, or it went upside down. Now, some of you are going to judge me through the screen and say, sure, Chris, what an excuse, but I really can't even go on a lot of roller coasters anymore because I have this thing called motion sickness. How many of you ever had motion sickness before? You probably feel me on that one. Anyways, wherever you are at on the scale of loving roller coasters or not so much, I really do believe that life can be a lot like a roller coaster. It can be exciting at times. It can be, you can be fearful at times in life through the unknowns. You have your high points, your low points, your ups, your downs, your twists, and your turns. And when we hit those struggle points, especially those low points, especially when they've went on long enough and it's difficult enough, I think there's times where we start to wonder, man, is this all there is? I actually even think, even when we're going through good seasons and we chase after things and maybe we achieve something and we finally achieve it, but it doesn't do for us what we thought it would, that we can even wonder, man, is this all there is when it comes to life? Have you ever been there? Where you wondered if this is all there is. Sometimes when we're at the point of this is all there is, God meets us and shows up and reveals purpose to us. Or maybe some of you know what your purpose is, but life has beat you down, has left you discouraged. You're in a low point right now. Or maybe life is so busy that it has left you distracted. It's almost as if you need to rediscover your purpose. Is this all there is? Can you discover your purpose? If you already know your purpose, if life seems out of control, is there a way to rediscover it? Thankfully, there is. And with our remaining time together, I want to talk with you about some steps that you can take to either discover or rediscover your purpose, your good work. And we're going to take a look, as we're starting this new summer series, we're going to take a look at the real life story of a dude named Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a personal assistant to a king. Just wanted to give you that context. And one day, one of his brothers came to visit him, and Nehemiah asked him about how things were going in Jerusalem. Just to give you that context, the Jews were Nehemiah's people, so he had a natural interest in them. Here's the thing, though. Little did Nehemiah know that this one conversation would change his life and the lives of others. Let's pick up the story to discover what his brother would say. So in Nehemiah 1, it says this: "He and the men with him said to me, 'Some of the people who returned are still alive. They're back in the land of Judah, but they're having a hard time. They are ashamed. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down. Its gates have been burned with fire.' When I heard about these things, I sat down and wept." Nehemiah's life was just turned upside down. And this was a big deal. In that culture, walls were a form of protection that would keep enemies out. Not having walls would leave them vulnerable for attack, and it would leave them defenseless. Have you ever been there where life hits you so hard or a problem hits you so directly and it just absolutely wrecks you? It could be in your own family. The problem could be waiting for you at work. You could be struggling with something within yourself, or even something that you may hear about in the world or even at church that just simply wrecks you. There's a lot of things going on right now in our world that have the potential to wreck us, doesn't it? What you're wrecked by could be a clue to answering your good work. And so number one in your notes, if you're going to be someone that either discovers or rediscovers your purpose, your good work, number one, simply ask myself this question: what bothers me? What bothers you? Nehemiah was bothered, but he didn't suppress it. Notice that it doesn't say, when I heard about these things, I went back into my bubble and pretended that it's not happening because I just don't want to be bothered. I don't want to feel bothered. It didn't say, when I heard about these things, I said something about it, and that was it. Now notice I didn't say it was wrong to say something. Saying something brings awareness. That said, it can't end with just saying something. Nehemiah was bothered, and he gave himself time to face it. He didn't back away just because it was uncomfortable. So I ask you, what bothers you? And when I ask what bothers you, I'm not talking about you being annoyed because you're personally inconvenienced. Nehemiah wasn't inconvenienced. It bothered him that his people were having a hard time and that they were ashamed. He was focused on others. So I ask you again, what bothers you? There are many factors to discovering your purpose, and I do believe your emotions and passions can be a clear indicator. What makes you want to Hulk out? You remember the TV show, the Incredible Hulk, David Banner, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry, right? Don't make me angry. What makes you sad? What energizes you? Can I pose this question? What if you're angry, sad, or energized about something because you were meant to do something about it? Maybe there's something in your family dynamic that bothers you. Maybe there's something in your realm of influence that bothers you, whether at work or at your kid's school or somewhere in your neighborhood or community. Maybe it bothers you that kids go hungry. Maybe it bothers you that people aren't making it financially. Maybe you see so much negativity out there and you want to be a voice of hope. Maybe you're bothered by injustice. If you're bothered, that's good. God is terribly bothered by injustice. Look at what he tells us in the Bible. It says this in Micah 6. The Lord has shown you what is good. See, we don't have to guess. The Lord has shown us what is good. We don't even have to guess what he requires of us. He has told you what he requires of you. It says this: you must act with justice. You must love to show mercy. And you must be humble as you live in the sight of your God. It's very important to God that we act justly. Notice it doesn't say speak justly. We need to act justly. Our words are important, but our actions often reveal more. Then it talks about loving others so that you can show mercy, not judgment, not just sharing your opinion, not just trying to be right and prove that you're right. It says to show love. And then it encourages us to live humbly as we live for God. It's a funny thing about humility. It's often easier to love and act justly when we're humble. Now I'll say this. Sometimes when injustice happens, we legitimately don't know what to do. Can I suggest that if you're bothered by injustice and don't know what to do, don't give up. Maybe this is a season where God wants you to listen. It doesn't mean that you listen for the rest of your life and never do anything, but maybe it's just taking a season to try to understand where others are coming from. Talking to some people face to face about what they're going through. Instead of coming with answers or opinions, come with questions. Even if you don't know what to do, just being with someone or saying sorry for what they went through can help them feel supported when they're going through an injustice. Again, I'm not saying you should just listen forever and not ever do anything, because God asks us to act justly. That said, maybe there's a season where you're just listening and asking questions. Then, as you see direction, then as you gain clarity, you start to do something about it. Besides asking what bothers you, another question you can ask is, what energizes me? What energizes me? Maybe it makes you smile to see a kid that's economically disadvantaged, well-fed. Maybe you love seeing marriages restored. Maybe you're passionate about seeing others start a relationship with Jesus. Maybe you love seeing people go from surviving to thriving. Maybe you love seeing justice for the person that's not consistently getting it. Maybe you're even passionate about seeing people pursue and fulfill their purpose, their good work. Whatever bothers or energizes you, it could be an indicator. Because you want to discover or rediscover what your good work is, start by asking, what bothers me? Let's see what Nehemiah did next to discover what we can do to find our purpose. It's the second part of Nehemiah 1:4, and it says this: for several days. You notice right there, he allowed time to go by. For several days, I was very sad. I didn't even eat any food, and I prayed to the God of heaven. Number two, if you're going to be someone that discovers or rediscovers your purpose, simply talk to God and others. This was a process for Nehemiah. He didn't face it for a moment. He allowed a time period to process this. And oftentimes, your purpose has to do with something that's not right or broken or something that needs to be restored or redeemed. Then God wants you to be a part of making it happen. That's why purpose can be found by what you're bothered by. Here's the thing though. While we need time to face it, we don't want to let our feelings rule the situation because we don't want to stay stuck in our feelings. Feelings are very valid. Don't hear that wrong. But we can't let them rule us either. When feelings rule, people can react. Often when they react, they do more damage than good. That's why we have to learn to respond instead of react. And one of the best ways I know how to respond instead of react is to talk to God about it. Really, that's what prayer is. It's talking to God and allowing God to talk back to you through His Bible. Now later in this message, we're going to look at the end of Nehemiah and at the end of Nehemiah's prayer. But verses 5 through 11 reveals what Nehemiah says to God. You may want to read it at home. Again, it's verses 5 through 11. You might want to even pull it out now and read it, or you might want to pull it out after the service is done. Prayer is definitely not a formula, but we can learn from Nehemiah on how to talk to God. In his talk, Nehemiah showed God respect. Man, that's so important. He requested to be heard instead of assuming or demanding. He was humble. He was humble, willing to admit his wrongs, even admitting the wrongs of his people, and he recalled God's promises. Now, there are many benefits in talking with God, and it's important to get God's viewpoint on the thing you've been bothered or energized by. You see, when we allow God to speak to our passions or the things that we're bothered by, it does certain things. Let me just mention a few. It keeps the focus on God, others, and you. On accident, some over time can make their purpose only about them. Can I say that's short-sighted and it's a very small purpose? It could be very damaging. Listen to this quote by Pastor Jeff Leake of Allison Park Church. He says this: "Fighting for my rights tends to be bad for my spirit. Fighting for the rights of others can be good." Now, don't take him wrong. He says tends to be, not always. That said, you have to examine yourself when you're only fighting for your rights, because you don't want to come across as defensive, and God never intended for it just to be about you. I mean, look at our leader. You don't see Jesus fighting for his rights. You see him pursuing the lost. Can I say, I hope this encourages you. God, it is about you, but God has created you for something bigger than yourself. I hope that's motivating to you. I hope you see it. Talking to God can also turn your bother into positive action instead of your bother turning into a negative anger and reaction. Lots of people get bothered by things, but when it turns to negative anger and reaction, that's not good. And many times we think, well, because we're bothered, we justify our actions. Well, I only did this because I was bothered by it. And I think you'll get the point when I say this. Have you ever seen two siblings fight? Or have you ever seen two kids fight? Or were you even one of those kids or siblings what's the classic line? He started it, they started it, she started it, right? Can I say, God's not looking for us to justify our actions. He's looking for us to turn our bothers into positive action. God, what's your take? How can I turn my bothers into positive, loving action that can help others? Here are a couple other reasons why it's helpful to talk to God when discovering or rediscovering your purpose. It reminds us that God is greater than the problem we're bothered by. And that's huge. It reminds us that He's here with us and that He can help you fulfill your purpose. It also allows you to see if God is bothered by it. Hey, God, is this something that you're bothered by? And if He is bothered by it, God has a way of shaping and refining it so that you could see it more clearly and so that it again can stay about God and others as well. Let me share an example that I think will help explain this. Say that you met with someone that was really knowledgeable in an area that you were either discouraged in or trying to make a change in it, but you just didn't know how to do it. By talking to them, you potentially will walk away with some strategy, some solutions, and even a vision on how to change what you need to change. Having strategy, solutions, and visions helps you respond instead of react. Now let me let you in on a cool little secret. God is the most knowledgeable there is. He has the best strategy, the best solutions to any problem, and He sees it all. God has all the vision that you need, and He can pass it on to you. Now, speaking of talking to others, when discovering or rediscovering your purpose, it's important to do that too. Look at this from the Bible. It says this in Proverbs 15. It says, plans fail without good advice, but they succeed when there are many advisors. In the past, when Robin and I needed to make big decisions or decisions based around our purpose, it has helped us tremendously, so much, to talk to others. It has brought confirmation to us about moving forward. At other times, it has supported our thoughts, but helped us to see it in a different way. There's even been times where it made us ponder if we needed to wait, kind of like push the pause button on moving forward until we see things more clearly. But like the Bible says, talking to others has helped us succeed. Talk to people you trust. Talk to people that know your strengths and weaknesses. It can bring clarity to you. It may bring pause to you, and it may even bring thoughts to you that you were never thinking of before. Because you want to discover or rediscover your good work, talk to God and others. So Nehemiah was bothered, yet facing it. He didn't ignore it. He didn't go back into his bubble. And then he talked to God about it. Let's find out how this helped him in his purpose by looking at the end of his talk with God. It says this in Nehemiah 1. Lord, please pay careful attention to my prayer. Listen to the prayers of all of us. We take delight in bringing honor to your name. Give me success today when I bring my request to the king. I was the king's wine taster. If you're going to be someone that discovers or rediscovers your purpose, simply number 3, allow a shift. Allow a shift. Now let me explain what I mean. Do you notice what starts to happen at the end of his talk with God? Nehemiah is about to go from being bothered to taking action. He was bothered by it. He was sad for several days. He started talking to God. And you see the hint in his talk. God, give me success when I bring my request to the king. Now, while this is a little later on in the story, Nehemiah was going to shift his life completely. He was going to go from being a king's wine taster to something completely different. And speaking of being a king's wine taster, how many of you are like, man, what a great job that would be, wine taster for the king? Before you sign up for that job, before you want to sign up and put your application in to Nehemiah's king, let me just give you a little context here. Here's why Nehemiah was a wine tester. In that culture, in that day, a wine tester was someone that tested the king's drink to make sure that it wasn't poisoned. I mean, talk about praying before a meal, right? Like, God, please bless this right now. Please help there to be no poison in there. If there is, take it out, please. God, I will follow you all the days of my life if you would just take this poison out, if there's any in there. So before you sign up to be the wine taster, please know that. But anyways, do you allow your purpose to shift you? Sometimes a person's purpose will completely shift their life, like it was about to with Nehemiah. Take Pastor Julian. He was a computer engineer doing very well, and then God called him to be a pastor. It was a complete life shift, and God does all sorts of life shifts for people. Maybe Just maybe God has a second career in mind for you that's more centered around His purpose for you. Or maybe you've been dreaming about helping people in a new way for a long time, but you were just hesitant to step out and pursue a new path. Or maybe God has a new neighborhood or new state for you to live in so that you can do your good work and help many in that neighborhood. Can I ask this question? If He's nudging a different purpose, will you allow a shift? Now, oftentimes, though, it's not the life shift. It's just a shift in focus or a shift in perspective. Maybe God's saying, hey, have you ever thought about your good work when it comes to your family in this way? Have you ever thought about making a difference with this person at work? Have you ever thought about serving your community in this way for a few hours a month? Have you ever thought about serving your church in this way for a few hours a month? Have you ever thought about sharing the hope of Jesus with your neighbor or coworker? You see, sometimes life can be so distracting, so busy, that many times it just takes a shift in focus or perspective for you to see your purpose or to rediscover your good work and see it more clearly. So again, the question, will you allow the shift? Can I tell you? God created you for this time period in your family, in your neighborhood, with your mind, with your experiences, with your talents, with your personality specifically so that you, yes, you could live out your purpose and make a difference. Have you ever said something like this? Man, if that were me, I'd do it this way, or man, they should really do something about this. And don't hear that wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying these things, but if it always stops at just saying it, it just can lead to complaining. You weren't bothered just to complain. None of us have been bothered just to complain. God hasn't called us to that. He's called us to be bothered to action, to do something about it. I love this challenge by my pastor friend, Carter Moss from OB New Break. Here's his challenge. Listen in, it's really good. I hope it's challenging and encouraging to you and motivating to you all at the same time. He says this, are you living a consequential faith? Does your faith have any hands and feet to it? Or is it merely intellectual? Is it changing the way you interact with the world, with your neighborhood? I've been challenged by these questions over the years and have strong convictions to help others have an everyday faith instead of a Sunday-only one. Can you give me permission to add to that challenge? Just nod your head on the other side of the screen. Yes, PK, I give you permission to add to that challenge. Good. Now that you've given me permission, can I say, I'd rather you live out a few verses than to know lots and lots of verses that are merely intellectual that you're doing nothing about. Please don't take that wrong. Keep learning and growing, but remember that the end goal is not knowledge, pride, or judgment. The end goal is loving and knowing God through Jesus. The end goal is knowing His heart and knowing your purpose so that you can make Jesus famous and love others by making a difference in their lives. You want to discover or rediscover what your good work is, what your purpose is? Allow a shift. As we start to close this part of the service, my hope is that you will find or rediscover your purpose. Or for some of you, your purpose has been too far away from you for too long. Can I say it's time to believe again? It's time to dream again. It's time to find or pursue your purpose again. Would you be one step closer to your purpose if you took the time to assess what really bothers me or what really energizes me? Would your purpose be more alive in you if you talk to God and others about it? Would your purpose start to become a reality if you allowed a shift to happen? Let's pray. God, we are so thankful that you have called each of us to a purpose and a good work. And I don't know where people are at today. For those watching, I don't know what they're going through or struggling with, or I just don't know. But I do know this, you have a purpose for them. I hope it's motivating to them. I hope it's encouraging to them. If they don't know what it is, would you help them start to find it? If they already know what it is, but they've been meandering throughout life a little bit too much lately, would you help them to rediscover it? Would you motivate them behind that, God? Talk to them about the purpose you have for them. Encourage them. Give them faith. Give them boldness to step out into what you've called them to do. Their purpose, their good work that you have for them. And some of you might want to add something like this to your prayer. You know, I'm realizing today that my very first purpose is to come to you, Jesus. I've never done that before. And today I want to ask you to be my forgiver and leader, because I realize that ultimately you're my number one purpose. And if I stay focused on you, that you can give me purpose for my life. And so I ask you to forgive me of my sins and to be my forgiver and leader today. Would you start to show me what my purpose is that you've created me for? And God, for all of my friends in the room, again, would you motivate them? Would you call them to courage? Would you gently and loving them push them on faithfully to the purpose and good work that you have for them? Show them how much you believe in them. God, help us to rely upon you as we step out there and make a difference. Lord, we love you. Man, we thank you so much for Nehemiah's story. And we pray these things in your name. Amen.